Hello and welcome to BierTier, the German engineer explains, oxygen not included. Today I have for you hatches and wrenches. Yes, we are wrenching hatches. That is correct. That is exactly what we are going to do today. And we are going into a little bit of a deep dive about everything there is to know about hatches and about this particular style of wrenching. So let's just jump right into it and see how that works out for us. And here we are. Yes, this is not the build that you just saw in the intro. This is of course the very bare basics version without any sort of automation, but let's just jump right into it and see what this here looks like and how it is done. First of all, let's turn the overlay back on and then let's see what we have here. Let's pause the game. And why is it shaped like this? Why is there a door and what's going on with all these storage bins? Let's see. First of all, when we take a look with our digging tool, the entire room here is 100 tiles. That is right, 100 tiles. If we take a look into our room overlay, we can see that the stable has a room size of 96 tiles and contains a total of 8 critters. The requirements are a grooming station and a minimum size of 12 and a maximum size of 96. A stable cannot be bigger than 96 tiles or it is not a stable anymore. To have 8 hatches in one stable, we do need exactly 96 tiles or they are pretty unhappy in here. So how do we get to 96 if I just told you it's 100? Well, that's why we have those extra tiles in here. We have one extra tile over here in the right top corner. You can literally place it anywhere. It just fits properly this corner, so it looks a little bit better. Then we have another one above this door and the door itself. The door has 2 tiles. This is 1 tile and this is 1 tile, which counts as a total of 4 tiles. These 4 tiles will be subtracted from our 100, which makes exactly 96. So why is there a door in the middle? This keeps our wrenches all the way here on the left side, very close to the grooming station, to the critter feeder as well. So when our dupes come in here through the door for our grooming station to actually groom our hatches, they are relatively close by and it just speeds up the entire process. If you imagine a hatch is running around all the way back here, the dupe is standing here and whistling, and until this hatch comes all the way along here, it just takes extra time that we don't want to waste. And this is why we have this one open space here on the top, and we cannot put this insulated tile right above here, because if we do that, this here would be actually blocked off and it does not count as one room. In this configuration here, it counts as one room and we can see it on this green outline right here. It counts. So what are we doing with all these storage bins here? Well, that is just what I have built in my Let's Play because I needed a place to store coal. And having it relatively nearby worked out for me. Later on, we can, for example, put in some automation where we get it out of those storage bins and put it wherever we need it. But what we can do with the space here, we will go over later as well. Storage bins is certainly not the only solution. It's just the first one that comes up in the game without having to research a hell of a lot or doing anything. So you can build exactly this here very, very early in the game. But this here is of course not the only layout. There are, as a matter of fact, many layouts. This here is just the very simplest one in my opinion and one of the earliest ones that you can build. But what if this here does not really fit in your base? Let's see what else we can do. Over here we have the basically exact same thing, just in a vertical layout. Let's take a look once again with our dig tool. This here is 95 tiles. Here we just have to do it in reverse. We need to build 1 extra tile to get to 96. Let's take a look in our room overlay and we can see once again the room size is 96 tiles and we have 8 critters in it. And when we click one of those, we can see on the top here, they're idle, groomed, unreachable, happy, and tame. But they are not overcrowded, and that is important. That's exactly what we want. With 8 hatches in here, they will never overcrowd. I am personally not a fan of building it vertically, and the reason for it is that all this here is now actually wasted space. We cannot put in any floors or anything else because that would take away from our 96 tiles unless you're willing to sacrifice some sort of space for your hatches. I personally always want to have 8 hatches in there because it is the most efficient way, but that is personal preference. There's nothing stopping you from coming in here and, for example, putting in another 4 tiles right there, then getting rid of those 2 and putting a door in and building something right here. And again, what you can build here we will see in a second. But again, that is not my personal preference, so you can do with that information whatever you feel like. Let's go over the advanced version of this build. And here we have it. This is exactly what you saw in the intro. Sorry for the delay, but that had to be so we can actually start at the beginning and work our way up. So let's take a look in the power overlay first. What do we have here? Ignore everything that is on the right. This here is all optional and is not needed. All that is needed is here on the left side. What we have here is, of course, on the top here, 2 conveyor loaders. Why 2, you're asking probably? Well, one of them, the right one as a matter of fact, is for our materials that our hatches spit out. The hatches on the top as well as the stone hatches here on the bottom both produce coal in different ways. We will take a look at this in a second. And the smooth hatches down here actually produce refined metal. So both of those different materials will get picked up by the conveyor loader. We can see it here. This one here is set to iron. This one here is set to coal, and this one here is set to coal as well. And on the left side here, this conveyor loader here, all 3 of them are set to critter eggs. Just all of them. It does not matter which one comes out. We're gonna pick them up and we're gonna bring them into this room right here. In this room right here, I just have some incubators that are hooked up to cycle sensors, and we will go over that in a second as well. And some auto sweepers to automate it as much as humanly possible. And then on the right side over here, I have some automation that we will also go over in a second, where I just separate out the different materials and put them into a storage bin. What you do with your materials is of course up to you. This is just a way of showing you how you can separate it. And that is already it. All we need is power. We don't need any pipes, we don't need any ventilation. That is the bare minimum that we need to make it work. But let's take a look at the conveyor overlay that I just mentioned. So once again, these here come out, they come up here, come along right there, and then right here is where the separation happens. We have a conveyor rail element sensor, and the conveyor rail element sensor is set to turn to green if it's coal. So if it's coal, we're gonna send it in and send it straight through. This here where our coal goes. If it is not coal, therefore it has to be refined iron, we're gonna send it straight through and send it over here. And we can see that in this storage bin we have 2016 kilograms of coal, and in this storage bin we have 1828 kilograms of iron. And that is refined iron and not iron ore. That is important to keep in mind. And then once again, here on the left, our conveyor rails on the left side coming out straight up and then dropping it right here into the middle. That is for our eggs. And when we take a look at our auto sweepers, they can reach this position here, both of them. That is the perfect position for it. They can also reach the 3 incubators on their respective sides, so they can actually just plop it in. And I have 2 of them set to hatchling eggs, 2 of them set to stone hatchling eggs, and 2 of them set to smooth hatchling eggs. That is once again just to show it off right now, just so you guys know what that actually looks like. So let's take a look in the automation overlay, and all we have here is a cycle sensor, which is always hooked up to the respective incubator. You don't have to necessarily do one for every single one. You can hook 2 together or whatever you want to do. I usually prefer it this way. And how are they set up? I set it up to an active duration of 10%, and the first one turns on at 0%. What is important to note is that you will need a dupe that has the critter wrenching skill available during this time, which is at 0%, which is exactly right here in the middle when our day starts. If your dupe is sleeping, he will never get to this here. So that is very important that you keep that in mind. Preferably you have 2 dupes with critter wrenching that are on opposite schedules, so one is always awake, and you then set these incubators here to a number 9 priority, all of them, just so all of these here have the highest priority, and the dupe will come in here and actually hug those eggs. And then these here are set up for 10% just to give him in more than enough time to actually get it done. And this one here is set to 0% and 10, and the next one is set to 10 and 10, 20 and 10, 30 and 10, 40 and 10, and 50 and 10. And you can basically keep on going like this forever. And the bigger your base gets, the more incubators you have. You can, of course, expand this entire system however you want. Then eventually your dupes will come by, pick up the hatchlings if you have set it up in here properly. This one here should be set to 8 with auto wrangle surplus turned on. And it is set to hatches and hatchlings. So no matter what, we will put all of our hatches and hatchlings into here, and if you have more than 8, they will get auto-wrangled. And preferably you have some sort of critter kill device where you put in your access ones and get some wonderful meat out of them. Then in this chamber right here, we have an auto sweeper, and the auto sweeper can reach the entire chamber to get the produced materials out, but very importantly, it can also reach those 2 tiles right here. Most importantly, this tile right there, because we have our conveyor chute right there, and if we take another look in our conveyor overlay, just from somewhere, where that is from your base, that is up to you. In my case, I'm just over here on the right, and I have sedimentary rock right here, which I can dig up right here, and right here, which is again sedimentary rock, copper and iron ore respectively. And when I turn it on, the auto sweeper will come, put it in there, feed it along here, and as soon as it lands right there on the floor, then our auto sweeper will pick it up and feed it automatically into our critter feeder, which of course drastically relieves our dupes. And once again, this is just an example build. Again, where your materials come from is up to you. It just makes it nice and smooth how I have built it. This is absolutely not necessary. So what is all this stuff right here? This here is just to show off how you can use this space, because when we take a look into our room overlay, we can see even though we have stuff in here like coal generators and auto sweepers and what do we have down here? Exosuit forges, we can put some research in here, we can put some rock rushers in here, whatever we want. Most of this stuff here does not count against stables. But there are some exceptions for that rule. So let's take a look. For example, if we go into furniture and we grab what can we put in here? For example, an arcade cabinet. If I plop an arcade cabinet in here, run it for a second and go back into the room overlay, now it is not a stable anymore because it does not know what it is. It says here it could possibly be a stable, but it could also possibly be a recreational room. And it wants you to do either one or the other, but not both. So you have to make that decision. You just need to make sure that it doesn't interfere with what you want to do. But up here on the top, for example, the coal generators, you can't just take the coal from the hatches and feed it straight into a coal generator. As long as you provide proper cooling, those hatches here will be happy. So let's take a little bit of a closer look at the hatches, what is going on here. In our database, we can see that the hatches have a livable range of -30 to 70 degrees. Preferably they live in 10 to 20 degrees, but again, that is negligible. They are just fine between -30 and 70. And then the diet. The diet is also something that needs to be kept in mind. We can take 140,000 grams per cycle, so 140 kilograms of sand, and convert it to 70 kilograms of coal. That means we have a 50% efficiency. The other 50% are basically just gone. The same is true for sandstone, clay, crushed rock, dirt, and sedimentary rock. But only for those. Usually what you would use at the beginning is usually sandstone or sedimentary rock, because in most biomes you have more than enough of it. You can also feed your hatches stuff like nutrient bars, meal lice, macroot, all sorts of stuff that is actually food. But you need to be very careful if you do that, because at meal lice, for example, we are feeding it 700 kilocalories, but we are only getting 875,000 milligrams per cycle of coal out of it. That means we are only getting 875 grams per cycle out of it. That is nothing at all. That is less than 1 kilogram, where we are getting 70 kilogram out if we use sedimentary rock. Also important to notice down here on the bottom right, we can see the egg chances. We get a 83% chance to get a hatchling egg, a 16% chance to get a stone hatchling egg, and a 2% chance to get a sage hatchling egg. I personally have never messed around with sage hatchlings. They're just not worth it in my opinion. The natural progression is what we have right here. You start with hatches, you find those around your base, then you feed him sedimentary rock, which increases the chance to get stone hatchling eggs. Then you get a second ranch going where you have your stone hatches in, and then your stone hatches can get you smooth hatchlings. And I'm not entirely sure what all this here is, but currently you have a 14% chance to get a smooth hatchling egg, and you can increase your chance of getting smooth hatchling eggs from your stone hatches by feeding them any sort of metal ore. For example, in my case, copper ore, because usually at the beginning you have more than enough of that stuff laying around. If you keep feeding it sedimentary rock, you will get more stone hatches. But if you feed it copper ore, for example, or iron ore, or cobalt ore, or aluminum ore, you will increase the chance of getting smooth hatches. And then the smooth hatches, so let's take a look at these guys right here in our database. And they eat actual copper ore or gold amalgam, iron ore, wolframite. They eat all this stuff, and they actually have a 75% efficiency. You feed them, for example, 100,000 grams of copper ore, which is 100 kilograms, and you will get 75,000 grams of refined copper out of it. So you get 75 kilograms of refined copper out of it for feeding it 100 kilograms. This is a 75% conversion rate, and that is not too bad for the beginning. It's a pretty good source of getting in some refined metals very early on, and also getting a bunch of actual calories out of it in the form of meat when they die. That is very good, and I personally am a big fan of hatches. I almost build them in every single game whenever I have them available, and it works for most of those metals, which is perfect. These stone hatches here in the middle are a little bit of a special case. Let's take a look at them in the database. If we feed them sedimentary rock or igneous rock or obsidian or granite, just like the normal hatches, we give them 140,000 grams a cycle, and we get 70,000 grams a cycle back out, a 50% efficiency. But that's not what we are doing, since we're trying to get smooth hatches, right? We're giving them metal ore instead of stones. So what happens then? Yeah, let's take a look at this. In copper, we see 140,000 grams don't give us 70,000 grams anymore. It's only 35,000 grams. So our efficiency goes down by creating coal from metal ore from 50% to 25%, and that is suboptimal. So we definitely want to do that as short as possible, just so we can get the eggs for the smooth hatches, and as soon as we have a stable smooth hatch farm going, we should probably get rid of the stone hatches because we don't need them anymore. That is what I would do, and then the eggs can be cracked with an egg cracker from our normal hatches on top here when we get any more stone hatch eggs out of it, and we just make beautiful omelets out of it. But again, this here is my setup. Most of the stuff here is just to show it off. Take whatever you can use from this and use it in your own base, and let me know how that works out for you. Don't just blindly copy and paste from my tutorials or anybody's tutorials. Always put in your own thought and you will get the furthest. That is my general advice. But that is all I have for you today, so please subscribe to the channel, leave a like on the video and comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. You know it, I'm always happy to hear from you. And with that I say thank you and peace.